to episode 2.
All right, welcome back, y'all. So we left off on the beginning of our practice in polyamory last episode.
Practice run.
Yes, and we are. You mean the practice run of polyamory?
The practice run of like me going out to fuck.
Oh, okay, yeah. Do you mind grabbing my water right there, real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and just continue on where we left off. Yeah, last we left off was that Jimmy started talking to 5 women. I don't think at this point yet where I'm gonna start, like where I'm feeling all this stuff, like we don't even know that they're not real yet because that all happened within a whole week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still in.
Well, actually, so that night.
Yeah, that night.
Pretty much the next day, I was like,
video chat me.
like video chat me if you still want to talk to me. So the very next day, I had dropped off the other 2 that wouldn't video chat.
Okay, so at this point, there's like 2 and maybe 3.
So there's 2 that I'm talking to now.
Okay.
The one that was in Ohio, and then the one that's in LA.
Okay. So Jimmy's talking to 2 people at this point. I'm still feeling really uncomfortable because I was still, even though he had dropped, like some of them had dropped off, I'm still in the, like, it takes me a few days to process what's going on. I'm still like, five people. And then I think like we sat down, we had a lot of talks during this time. And you were saying like, look, I know that it wasn't 5, but I could see myself still dating 5 people. I could do it. And so that was kind of the go-to attitude that Jimmy had. And so I'm still super scared because I'm still thinking like, fuck, he's still going to go through like the 5. He's still going to try to like add 5 people to his plate plus me, plus the girls. We have 2 daughters, 8 and 6. And so I'm just like, I don't know how this is all going to work. I don't know like what's going to happen to us. And if Jimmy's like bouncing around and jumping from place to place, where does that leave me? So I think that's kind of where I was. So kind of jumping back into the story, the day after you went on your dates that ended up being just one date and it didn't end up even being a date because there was a catfish. You came home, we had talks. I ended up like just feeling I was in a lot of grief and mourning because I think the next day was when I did that breath work, right? Like I was that was the next day I remember because I was out. We have a sunroom and I was out in the sunroom and I was just crying, but I was like making these like wailing sounds. I just needed to create time and space for myself to be able to like let out all of the felt like anguish and despair and sadness and grief and loss and in our communications together I was asking you, can you please give me some time and space to integrate? And you were starting to get, I think with my anxiety and the way I was communicating to you, you were starting to get, I was getting that you were getting kind of frustrated, feeling like I was restricting you. I mean, you can kind of like if that lands, I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, so you're kind of feeling like restricted, and what I heard was that like you really wanted like autonomy, but you were feeling like having to attune with me and consider all of my feelings and my hurt feelings. It was kind of getting in the way of you being able to learn how to explore for yourself, right? So I was getting the message that Jimmy was not willing to attune to what I was going through. Jimmy was getting the message that I was resisting and like putting blocks in front of him for what he wanted to go through. We were feeling like we were on the same like team, I think. And I just felt like this is like a death of like we're finally facing that we're going from monogamy to non-monogamy, and I'm finally starting to feel all of this in my body. Before I felt like it was all play. All the dates that you'd gone on before where they didn't end up like working out. You were dating monogamous women and you would come home and be like, it's not going to work out if they're monogamous. And, we just had fun. All of that kind of stuff. I felt like that was the practice. And then this was like, I know it was practice for you, but it felt like real to me. Like I said, it was like a real fire happening or an earthquake that was happening. And I'm just like running around like, I've prepared for this all my life, this fire drill, and now the fire's actually happening. I don't know what the fuck to do. So I'm like, yeah, I cried so much during that. I moved my body in all these really weird ways. I was making like, it sounded like warrior cries and like, tribal, like it just sounded like really ancient, like I was having this like moment, and you could feel how in pain I was that you came over while I was doing that. You put your head on my shoulder and you cried with me. And that's when it was kind of weird because all I needed was understanding from you. And although you could say like I understand and I'm trying to be here with you, I never could feel that from you. But it was that day when I felt like I was mourning and having a ritual, mourning what our relationship looked like, and kind of like it was that death and rebirth portal where some new birth is happening, and I'm just in pain. And you came over, and when you put your head on me and you cried, I felt your understanding. So I started to feel a lot better. And my friend, at the time, I was reaching out to her, trying to get support wherever I can. Although she's monogamous and doesn't really completely understand what we're doing, she was trying to be supportive, and she asked me to go with her to Arizona. She was gonna take a, what is it called, like a round trip,
A road trip.
like a road trip, but like a turnaround trip, right? Like she was gonna go there, pick up her parents from a relative's house, and come back home. And she was gonna do this all by herself. I was like, I'll go with you because I kind of need this space from what I've been going through. I think it could be good for me and Jimmy to get some space. So I decided to go on this like road trip, this turnaround trip with my friend, and we leave on Wednesday. Yeah. So that same week, we leave on Wednesday, and I go for a little bit. We're only there for one day. We're coming back Thursday, I think it is. Or maybe we left. No, we left
2 days.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
We left Tuesday and got back like Thursday morning.
Yeah, you were gone for 2 days.
Yeah, it takes like 8 hours to get where we're going. So we got back like 9 a.m. on Thursday, and we left like 9 p.m. on Tuesday. So we were only there for one day, and then we just hopped right back home. During that time that I was getting space, Jimmy had gone on
A date.
a date.
So, the night that Justine left, I dropped her off at her friend's house, and I went on a date that was actually like 10 minutes away from her friend's house. And
We were both feeling good about that one too.
yeah, we communicated, and everything was really cool. And the next day, I had her come over, and it was a really awkward situation because I was on my way home, and I was kind of texting Justine. I also texted her, and I invited her to come over,
Yeah.
and I didn't get a response right away, but I had done that, and I was going to tell Justine, hey, I invited her over. And before I could do that, Justine starts like sexting me. She starts texting me all this like naughty stuff, and we were just having fun on the phone, and it lasted quite a bit. And I was under the impression that she is either masturbating or is about to masturbate. So I refrained from telling her because I was like, no, if I tell her right now, that's gonna fuck it all up. She's definitely not gonna come. So I just didn't tell her. And next thing you know, my friend comes over, and I'm in the middle of this with Justine. I'm like, just give me a second. I'm in the middle of something, and Justine was like, I'm gonna go take a shower now. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So she went to go take a shower, and by the time she called me back, I like didn't answer the phone because I was already hanging out with my friend.
And this whole time that me and Jimmy are texting, I mean, we're texting because you're coming home from work.
Mhm.
And then also I just started kind of like playing around with you because like we don't really sext each other. We've tried to before, but it's kind of
I was
like,
really bad at it before.
yeah. And so we were just like having fun, and I was having fun, and it was really exciting. I was giggling. I'm in Arizona. Jimmy's here at home, and we're I'm giggling, and my friend's like, she's trying to talk to me, and she's like, what? And I'm like, like I was like having fun. So I'm like thinking things are getting better. Before I left for Arizona, I just wanted to show people and kind of backtrack a little bit. But remember when I was leaving for Arizona, we felt like we were in a really good place because I created this like, I don't know if you can see it, but I made this little like, let's figure out how we're going to integrate all the things that we're learning. So I have this like improve our polyamory practice, and I created all these notes. I mean, it wasn't this full. It's a living document. So
it became really full after this whole
journey
situation.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about what we could do to integrate. We were going to take more space, more time, all this stuff before I even left for Arizona. When you dropped me off to my friend's house, you were going to go meet Mary Lou, and I was feeling pretty good about that. I think that's fine, right?
Yeah, we'll just bleep it out.
Yeah. I was feeling really good about it, and she actually was somebody that I had learned about through you. So you were kind of taking your time sharing who she was with me. And then when you guys were gonna meet up, she even said, "Oh, let's change locations to where you are, like closer to you." And I thought that was really nice that she's trying to make it convenient for you, so you're not driving all these like different places. So I left a really, I liked that she was considering you. Um, so I get dropped off. We start going to Arizona. I'm in Arizona the next day. I'm having a hard time sleeping. I didn't sleep the whole time I was in Arizona. I think I went like 3 days no sleep, like 1 hour each day of sleep because I was so emotionally dysregulated. On Wednesday night, the full day that I was in Arizona, we are sexting each other, and Jimmy's having this woman come over, and I had no idea. So, and she was already here by the time you were like, okay, well, I'm gonna go take a shower now, and you're like, okay, go play with yourself, and yeah, and so then like a few hours later, like you were just kind of talking about how I was trying to call you
Yeah,
back.
so a couple hours later, Justine was like using the Find My iPhone app, and that's when I heard, because my phone's on vibrate most of the time. So when she started using that, I heard it, and I went to go get the phone, and I was like, "Oh crap!" And I called her back right away, and that's when I was like, "Oh, my friend's here right now," and she was like, "What?" But she was actually really cool about it. She's like, "Okay, then I'll just let you go. You have fun." But I could kind of sense like, all right, she's not very happy about this, but like, and then I understood the timing. It's like, oh, she's already here. Now I'm telling you. It wasn't like, hey, what I intended to do was to tell her, hey, I invited her over. But again, the situation, I chose to not tell her at the moment because I thought it was more important for her to come. Um, but yeah, so those are the kinds of things that we kind of go through. Like, should I have just told her?
Timing.
Like, or this should I have done what I did and like wait for like a better time, which doesn't seem like there ever really is a better time. So
Yeah. I think in the beginning of the journey, it's really important, especially depending on, it really just depends on who you're with. I think like we're gonna all make mistakes. And then it's just like giving each other grace and knowing that we're willing to make these mistakes and kind of go through them together. That really helps. But definitely like there are going to be moments where it's just like, well, I would have liked if you told me ahead of time. And in this case, because he was talking to me on his way home, I would have liked if he told me ahead of time before, even if I just started to sext you or like, like I felt like it could have been said like, oh, before we go down this hole, I just want to tell you this thing, right? So kind of just jumping back to where you were, yeah, I had found out that she was here after the fact when I called and Jimmy called me back. And at first I was like, okay, well, I had a good feeling about her, and the fact that she's over again, obviously, like Jimmy must like her. Um, but it wasn't until after I got off the phone that I realized, like, wow, she's in my house, she's in our home, and yes, Jimmy can invite people over to the house, but I didn't have a say on like who comes over. It just felt like I didn't have a say like to my own space. And like just recalling that I was like really really feeling like I was mourning. I was going through a really hard time. It's why I needed some space and time. I felt like the last safe place that I had was my physical home. Um and yeah, it was really hard for me to find out that somebody was in my home that I didn't know. It's just like, and that would be for anybody. It's like if some strange man came over that you invited him over. I'm just like that. Like when your sister came over and you invited her over like a few years ago, I was like, we're not really on good terms. Like I don't want people to just come over like that, without me knowing that they're gonna be in my space. So I was a little upset about that, and I ended up texting you like just shortly after, like, hey, let's have a talk when we get back together again. I want to have a talk about like how we invite people over and like how we tell each other that we're gonna have people over, and then that was that. But yeah, you want me to keep
yeah,
going?
no, that's good. I think that's a good point to kind of like I guess wrap up as
No,
far as.
no, I still have more.
Oh, okay, then
Can we
go.
finish this like this segment of
Then
like,
go. Yeah, of
yeah, I don't
course.
feel complete yet. So, um yeah, because like more happened that night. So like after Jimmy called me back, um, and said that that she was here, um, I wasn't very happy. So I got off the phone. I thought about it. I got back to him with a text and said like, hey, like we should have a conversation about this like when I get back. And then like a couple hours later, I've not heard back from you.
Yeah, so
So
my
knowing,
my friend had already left, and I had this thought that Justine still wanted space, and it kind of was a little bit weird
Mhm.
when we spoke last. So I was just like, I'm just gonna leave it at that. And later on, she ended up reaching out to me again, and I was like, no, I'm still awake. She's like, is your friend still here? I'm like, oh no, she left a long time ago.
mm, so yeah, like knowing that a woman is here that isn't me, like I just felt like it made sense to reach out to me when she wasn't here anymore. But of course, Jimmy can't read my mind. And a couple hours had passed, and now it's like 11:30, close to 12 in the morning, like 11:30, 11:45, maybe around that time. And I had not heard back from you, so I was like, is she still at the house? And now I'm freaking out because I'm like, if she's at the house, is she staying at the house? Is she gonna sleep over there? Is she in my room? Are they gonna fuck? All these thoughts start like coming into my mind, and I'm in somebody else's home in Arizona. I don't really know them. I'm in a small space, and I'm just kind of like I'm just trying to sit with all of these weird feelings, like, and I'm not trying to make any assumptions. Like my brain wants to go there. It's thinking like, are they fucking? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Is she doing this in your house? Like, is she touching your dog? Like, where is she sitting right now? All of that. And I was sitting that for like a couple hours, and then I was just like, why hasn't he hit me back up yet? I'm just so like uncomfortable. I don't know. And so I start reaching out to you, and I'm just like, hey, I think I asked like when she leaves, can you like call me? Like, because I just want to know, like, I just want to hear from you and just kind of like talk, and we don't have to talk very long, but let's like kind of connect again. And then you text me back and said, I'm streaming. I've been streaming and she's been gone for a while. And so here I am again in another like fire like situation where I'm going through a crisis, and then I'm finding out like, oh my god, she left like a couple like maybe like a couple hours ago or like an hour ago. I'm freaking out for no reason, and I'm getting mad cuz I'm like, I'm freaking out and you could have told me this. Like, like that's the feeling that I was
Yeah.
getting. I'm not going to blame you, but like that was the feeling that I was getting. And so we did talk for a little bit. I wasn't very happy. And then we got off the phone again, and I said we'll talk about this like tomorrow. Yeah, but as I sat with it the rest of the night, that's when um, yeah, and I came back to you with another thing before we ended the night. So we'll tell you that part in the next one. Yeah, I think that's where we'll leave off.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for watching. We'll have another one for you guys soon.